Welcome to Shuck Beans podcast, a podcast dedicated to all things positive in Appalachia, the history, the values, the traditions, and most of all, the people of Southern Appalachia. Southern Appalachia covers a very, very large area from the northern tip of Alabama all the way to Pennsylvania. So there are many people today who will appreciate these stories and others who will learn from them. And in today's podcast, which is called Mothering Like an Appalachian, you will meet two of my dear friends, Renee Blanton and, Renee Haywood Blanton, as I knew her growing up, and Peggy Noah Ernspiker. And we grew up together in Harlan, Kentucky, and our mothers were from Harlan. And our mothers knew each other, and our grandmothers were from Harlan. So we're the real deal, and we believe that mothering like an Appalachian made a difference in our lives. So welcome, Renee, and welcome, Peggy.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
having us.
Yes. So I just want to start out a little bit by setting the scene and setting the context. In the 80s, and I hate to age us, but in the 80s, when we grew up, the two of you went to high school together, and then I went to a different high school, but we were all connected through one place, and that is through church. So, Peggy, why don't we just start with you, and let's talk about how our mothers embedded faith into our lives as part of the bedrock of their mothering.
I don't remember life without church. My mother got saved when she was expecting me. And so we always went to church. That was our entertainment. 3 times a week, sometimes more than that, we were in church. If there was a revival, we were there every night. If there was a youth rally, we traveled to wherever that youth rally was, and my parents made sure I was there. So it was
Yes,
very
and
important.
absolutely. And what about you, Renee?
Well, I remember going to church from a very young child. I remember seeing pictures of the pastor at our church, J.G. Heckler, holding me in his arms when I was probably just a year or two old. So I don't know if I remember being at church, but I remember the pictures. So I was really young when my mom started taking us to church, and I went all of my years living at home. No matter what I was doing on Saturday night, Sunday morning, I had to get up and go to church. It was not optional. And my brother also. I mean, we went until we left home. We didn't get to choose. And my mother's faith is a part of who I am today. She was faithful to the church, and she insisted on us being faithful to the church. She taught us my very first job in high school. My mother would take my 10% out of my paycheck for me to write it on my envelope and give it to the church. She taught me what she knew.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I love that too. And Peggy, you brought up something that I know Renee and I both experienced. So at home, we would have youth rallies. And you're right. I mean, there was at some point, there was a bowling alley, but that took a long time to get built.
Yes.
There wasn't a McDonald's when I left.
No.
There was a Rax. And so when you think about the mothering portion of it, it was making sure we were in a good place. They were intentional about making sure they knew where we were. And we weren't carrying cell phones, and they certainly couldn't call to find out if we were there. But they knew that whether it was down the road at Moelis or up at Cumberland, wherever it was, if we said that's where we were going, that we were there and that we were in a good place. And I just want to make the point here in 2025 that knowing where your children are has nothing to do with being able to track them on a cell phone. Nothing at all. It has everything to do with where they are and
Absolutely.
who they're with. And you and I, we three, I know you all have been best friends for forever, but when we come together, there isn't a minute's hesitation that we are not aware that we share one thing that our mothers instilled in us. And that is our faith. And so, other than the faith, though, mothering in Appalachia, and Peggy and I were just talking about this before we came on, Renee, means that you grow up with somebody who is very direct. I mean, if
Absolutely.
if I wanted to know or didn't want to know what my mom thought, she directly told me
It didn't matter.
because and I will say this and then I'll be quiet, let you all share your stories. But my mother believed that she alone on planet Earth loved me more than anybody else. I mean, I'm sure she thought other people loved me too, but if she didn't tell me the truth, then who was going to tell me the truth? And there was never a point in my life that I said, no, I don't want to hear that, or that's not for me. So why don't you tell me, Renee, maybe a time when your mom, was direct with you, or you were direct with your daughter. You are both mothers and I'm not.
Absolutely. My mom, she is definitely has always been direct. She would tell us the truth, even if it hurt. Um, my mom has always been an encourager. She's never talked in my life. I've never heard my mother say that she's nervous. I've never heard her say she's stressed out. She has never said the word anxious. My mother has never said she is anxious. And I really don't ever say that I'm anxious. I've never said I'm depressed. I've never said I'm anxious. Um, I just learned that from my mother. And I have a young person in my life that her mother was always depressed and anxious and
Oh.
stressed out. And she talked like that from the time she was a little bitty girl. I think you learn from your mother how to behave. You learn your behaviors. But my mom, my point in saying all this, she would say, don't say you're depressed. Don't say you're stressed out. Don't say you're afraid. If I say I'm losing my mind, my mom will be like, don't you dare say you're losing your mind. You've just got a lot on your mind. She'll
Yeah.
There
tell
you
you,
go. Right.
she'll tell
Right.
you
And
how to
so
think.
Yeah.
right. And so, because people who listen to this very well may want to emulate that. I mean, what a wonderful place to be. How your mom had, just like we always all do, has had stress, I'm sure, that was very great at
Absolutely.
certain points in her life. So how did she set that model for you that despite what was going on around her, she was able to say, I'm not depressed, I'm not anxious?
Well, she just prayed through it. She just prayed through it. Once again, it goes back to faith. That's just who we were. That was our life. That was how we was raised. It was all about faith and centered around faith. And she just believed that if you speak it, that it could happen. She don't believe in speaking it out loud. She believes in,
Ah.
yeah, speaking faith. She believes in speaking
Speaking
faith.
faith, right, and
Absolutely.
then pray through the depression or the anxiety or
Absolutely.
whatever the stressful
Absolutely.
situation was that,
Yeah.
yeah, that she was and I'm sure that at times there's a diagnosis of those things which can be different, but when we're just simply going through a difficult time and we've learned from our mothers to take those burdens to the Lord. You all remember that old song?
Yes.
Leave
Yes,
there,
yes.
Leave them
leave them
there.
there. Take your
Yes.
burdens to the Lord and leave them there.
Leave them
So,
there.
Peggy, I know your mom also represented the exact same level of faith during difficult times.
My mom was the backbone. My dad was more in the forefront where people knew my dad. My dad preached, so people knew who he was. My mom was very quiet and very reserved, and she wasn't real outgoing, but she was the backbone of our family. And now my dad did deal with depression, and he didn't talk about it a lot, but he had problems from his childhood. He had a really rough childhood. And so I can remember my mother talking to him and saying, stir up your pure mind. Don't think on that. Don't say that. Don't feel that way. And I can remember her going in the back bedroom and just praying out loud for him. And us kids were in the other room, and we knew that's what she was doing. She was praying for him. And it worked. Every time he would come out of that gloom and that place that he was in. But it was my mother who, most people really probably didn't even know my mom a lot because she was very quiet, and
Yes, she
she had a
was.
hard time just introducing herself. I can remember we would visit churches and they would ask me to sing, or they would ask Dad to testify, and they would say, Sister Noah, do you have anything to say? And she would shake and say, it's good to be here. She just did not have that personality,
Right.
But behind the scenes, my mom was running the show. Let me tell you, she was. And her
Yes.
faith was tremendous.
I would definitely say behind the scenes, my mom was running the show too. And when I was a little girl and my parents went through a difficult time, it was my mother. It was my mother who prayed with other women, who ensured that our family was important to her. That she definitely, like Renee was saying, she definitely had reason to be anxious and reason to be worried. Unfortunately, she did say she was worried a lot. I guess I say that too. But I knew behind it all, Mom came to see me after I left home, and we were going out somewhere, and we, got ready, and I'm ready to go. And she says, honey, we need to talk to the good Lord before we leave. That was an expectation that she had. Now, we're probably talking to a lot of people who may not have grown up with a background of faith, or who uh, really are looking at how to mother like an Appalachian from a cultural perspective. So I'll start and just tell you all a really direct story. When I was probably 23, 24 years old, and I wasn't living at home anymore, I came home and explained to my parents this relationship that I was in. And I'll never forget, Mom and Dad, they listened and they did the whole thing. And then my mother said what she often said: what in the world are you doing down there, girl? And that was code for, there is nothing else I need to say. You need to turn yourself around. You need to exit the situation. You need to change the circumstances, because you have decades now, Phoenicia, that we've been training you on how to live. What in the world are you doing down there, girl? And later on, as I grew professionally, I remember one day I had to make a really, really difficult decision in the workplace about another person that I worked with. I was a manager, and I had to make a management decision. And I called home to tell my mom how nice and wonderful everybody was, but that I really thought I was going to have to make this difficult decision. She said, you know what? They hired you to do a job. You go do your job. I love this story. I called to tell her, that again, I was insecure in my job, and I wasn't exactly sure if I should be looking somewhere else. But I said, oh, I'm so devoted here to the people I work with. She said, they'll change your job out like a picture on the wall. You go do what you need to do. The priority was, Phoenicia, you take control of the
Absolutely.
situation that you're in, and don't allow the circumstances that are around you to drive your decision making. And sometimes that's good, and sometimes it's bad. It can make me seem too abrupt. Sometimes I'm too forward. I realize, that I need to equivocate a whole lot more than I did growing up. I can't just look at something and say, oh, it's black or white. I need to say, oh, it has shades of gray. But my mom didn't
Black
know
and
any of
white.
those shades of gray.
That's a good thing. That's a good
Yeah,
thing.
it is.
When I first married my husband, my mom was kind of the opposite. She didn't say, really, you know what you need to do. She would be like, well, you got yourself into this, so you just deal with it. When I first married my husband, he was older than me and he had children. And I was young and jealous and just tore up all the time. I thought I should be the top dog. I should be first no matter what. And I come home one time just crying, and I wasn't first. His children were first. And after having our daughter, I figured out what it was all about. But yes, but she said, "Now listen, you knew he was a father. You knew he had been married before. You knew he had these children. You just deal with it. You just you just do what you have to do and make it work. This is your life." And she didn't say, "Well, now you just could come on home anytime you want to."
Yeah.
That isn't, she's just like, "Listen, you just have to deal with it. You learn to make it work. This was your choice." And if it would have been a horrible relationship, I'm sure she would have felt different, but it was just a relationship that was going to take some work. And she was telling me, "You have to work at it. This was your choice and you have to work at it." And that was very wise on her part.
Oh, yes.
Instead of just saying, "Well, you can just get a divorce and come back home." No, she never said that.
Right, right. Well, Peggy, I know your mom was straightforward as well.
She was very much so, very direct with me, especially. I mean, if from standing up straight, she would say that to me. I tell that to Ashley and my granddaughters all the time. My mom would say, "Stand up straight and throw those shoulders back." Quit standing like
Yes,
that. She would always say
yes.
that to me. And not to laugh too loud. Don't laugh too loud. That's so unladylike. And there was just so many things through my childhood that she just taught me, and I taught Ashley things that really annoyed me that she said to me when I was a little girl. I said the same thing to my daughter, you know, and she says the same thing to her. Be quiet when you're in a restaurant. You're quiet. You don't talk loud and you don't laugh loud.
Mhm,
And just different things like that. How to treat other people, how to be kind to other people, how to listen to other
Absolutely.
people.
Mhm.
It's not all about you. I can remember my mom saying that to me many times in my life. I'd be all upset because somebody did something or somebody said something as a
mhm.
kid, and she would say, "Hey, it's not all about you. It's not always all about you." So things like that, I think, were just embedded in her from her mother, and she carried them on to me, and then I've carried them on to my daughter, and
That's
she
good
carried
mothering.
her
Yes,
daughter.
that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that is good mothering. Uh, Renee, I think it is so interesting in 2025 if you uh run home to your mom with a problem, or if you call an aunt with a problem, or what have you, there are so many voices speaking into that problem.
Oh,
There
yeah.
are influencers on the internet, there
Mhm.
are self help books everywhere. But what I hear in each of our stories is pragmatism. Our mothers had the end goal in mind. They had the end
Absolutely.
view. Sometimes it's difficult for me not to have the end view. I just bought a piece of furniture. I want it to last until I die. And he's not, he might replace it someday. He's
Yes.
but with our moms, that
Oh, yes.
sense of value, that sense that you made this decision, Renee, you knew what you're getting into, and these children are so important. And now you look at what a beautiful, beautiful marriage you had, and your own daughter, you're and Duran's daughter, Emily, and just how beautiful that is. And Peggy, my mother said, and I say it constantly to myself, stand up straight and hold your stomach in.
Yes.
That she added that part. Stand up
Yes.
straight and hold your
Mine
stomach
said
in.
that too, but I didn't know if you
Yeah.
want me to say that.
Though I read that in a book somewhere the other
Yes.
day, that's actually supposed to help you
Yeah.
maintain because I'm 59 and you all are both over 60, and we're going to need to stand up straight and hold our stomachs in,
Absolutely.
right? If we're going to live to be
Absolutely.
Yeah.
90, you've poured into your daughters. And of course, Renee, your little granddaughter is too young, but I know you will. But Peggy, you have granddaughters that are teenagers. So why don't you start, Peggy, and just talk about what you've poured into your daughter and now your granddaughters, and how they also share that hope that you have in faith.
Absolutely. I raised Ashley just the same way I was raised. We were in church all the time. Um, she was very involved in her youth group when she was a teenager, and she actually went to Bible college. The first college she went to was to Boyce Bible College, and she just was really involved in church, and she's raised her daughters in church. And, I was telling Ashley about us doing this today, and she said, we were talking about how she's raising her girls. And she said, there's not many, probably 14 and 18-year-old girls that have never had social media. Ashley has never allowed her daughters to have social media. And they didn't get a
Wow.
cell phone until Ansley just got one and she's a freshman, and Emma got one when she was a freshman. But she kept that away from them. And Emma is a senior in high school and still doesn't have any social media because Ashley thinks it's dangerous. She said it causes girls to feel insecure. They can't
Absolutely.
compete with everything that's on there. They can't manage all of the emotions and all of the things that happen on social media. And she wants them to focus on their education and on school and on
Mhm.
church and things that are important and are a priority. And all those fusses that happen and all the things that happen on Facebook, her girls have no idea what they're even talking about because they don't have it and they don't see it. And I'm very proud of her for that because that's been tough. She's had a lot of peer pressure from mothers who are saying she's holding the girls
Oh.
back and she's not allowing them to be independent or have independent thinking, and that they should be able to express themselves. And she's had to stand firm and say, they're still at my house, they're still under my roof. I still have control, and as long as I do, I'm going to protect them. She feels like it's a protection, and I agree.
Yeah, and I think that protection was certainly a part of making sure our parents knew where we were when they sent us to
Absolutely.
youth group as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and what about you, Renee? What did you pour into Emily that was poured into you?
Well, also church attendance, taking her to church. Emily was born on a Monday, and the next Sunday she was in church. And she was in church all of her life. She went to the Barberville Youth Camp, and she went every year for probably 6 or 7 years. She went to the little Baptist church camp on Happy Top. She went to church camp every summer and made friendships in church camp. And it's always been important to her. And I remember one time, this was something that I was so proud of. When we would go to the lake in the summer, my sister had a houseboat, and we would go to the lake. When we went to Gatlinburg, when we went to Florida, when we went to Myrtle Beach, we went to Sunday school. We would get up in Gatlinburg and go to the
Wow.
Parkway, the big Parkway church, and be in Sunday school class. Emily was trying to get that Sunday school pin, those pins
Oh,
that
yes. Oh my
for
goodness.
attendance.
Yes,
I remember
yes.
8 years. She went
Yes.
8 years without missing Sunday school. And that was so important to her. And she had a teacher. She come home one day telling me about they were doing the attendance. They were all going to Pizza Hut, perfect attendance from school. And she told her teacher, he even told me later that she said, well, I'm not that into perfect attendance at school, but I haven't missed Sunday school in 8 years. And
Wow,
so
that
he told
is
me she was
amazing.
so proud of her Sunday school attendance. So I was
That
proud
is
of that.
amazing.
Yeah.
But
Oh, yes, absolutely.
and when she got a little older, she was a little resistant and, didn't want to go to Sunday school and or to church when she was in high school. And I told her, I said, that's who we are. That's what we do. We go to church. And that's what you'll do as long as you live in this house. And she quit trying to miss church. She figured it out. And when she went to college, she still went to church. She went to
Mhm.
church in Lexington when I didn't make her go to church. And I'm very proud of that. That's something
Yeah.
I feel like I instilled in her that'll be more important than anything she's ever learned.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because the friendships that you make there, and the trust that you have in the people that you meet there is so important. I Obviously, we've talked so much about faith and about pragmatism and about our mom staying involved in our lives. And I didn't discuss this with you all, but my parents, or especially my mom, never used that phrase, or you're getting too big for your britches, or oh, I don't want you, don't act like that, you might get the big head, or I don't want you to participate here, because there was a belief and a hope that we would do better than they did. And today, as I look at the condition of our country, I am convinced that young people have lost, and not all of them, of course, but many young people who struggle with all kinds of issues have lost that hope that in America you can do better.
Absolutely.
And, we just had that encouragement constantly. And you both had that for your daughters.
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
So, Renee, you were telling me yesterday about the unique role that Emily plays there in Southeast Kentucky with children who have Asperger's syndrome or autism.
When Emily went to school at UK, she became she got a social work bachelor's degree. And when she graduated from college, she started working with children with autism. And she decided to go on and get her master's degree in behavior therapies. And so she is a behavior therapist. Well, she worked in Lexington for 5 years with children with autism. When she decided to move back to Harlan, there isn't a job, there's not a position like that in Harlan County. There's not a therapist or a clinic here that hires therapists, actually. So there was it wasn't a kindergarten job. It's an autism unit job at
Okay.
at our local school. And she applied for the job, and she got the job because of her experience working with children with autism. So that's what she's doing now in Wallen School. She's working with children who have autism, and she can use all of her experience and expertise in working with children with autism in that job at the school. The special education position is what she does at Wallen.
So you imagine that if you had said in any way, no, don't you think you're going to get too big for your britches?
Yes.
But no, the whole time.
Absolutely. Pushing her the whole time. When Emily was at UK, she had an opportunity to do a semester abroad, to do study abroad in England. And her dad really didn't want her to do it. He's like, don't you encourage her to do that? And I'm like, oh, yes, I will. I want to encourage her to do that. I want to encourage her to go as far as she can go and see what she can see. There's more than what's in Harlan. I wanted her to experience things and to get education, all the education she could get.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Peggy, excuse me. I know you've encouraged your daughter as well and are so proud of her. Do you want to talk about how,
Ashley too has her
it was
master's degree.
never ever a
Yes.
threat. We
No,
were
and
never a
I've
threat to
encouraged
our
her.
mothers, and your daughters were
Yes.
never a threat to you.
No,
Ashley's running the country. Ashley's running the Texas Roadhouse community.
She has really, really gone up in that company. She's part of over the Treasury Department, but she has she has her master's degree. Ashley will always be a student. And funny enough, my mother was always a student. My mom took college classes after I was grown and married and out of the house. And my mother loved to
Wow.
read. She loved to learn new things. And I think she really, really instilled that more in Ashley than she did with me. That really, I love to read, but I never really wanted to take classes or do anything like that. But
Right.
Ashley will always be a student. She has her degree, a master's degree in business. She went ahead and got her accounting degree, so she's an accountant. She is working on her doctorate and taking classes to
Wow.
do that. and works a very stressful full-time job and has 2
Right.
teenage daughters. She's just one of those people. And her daughter, Emma, is graduating with honors this year. She's a senior in high school, and Emma wants to be a neurologist. And we're encouraging her. She has her first 4 years paid for. So we are encouraging her to do that. And I can see her reaching that goal. And 100% we say every day, you can do anything you want to do. You just have to want to
Absolutely.
do it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, when I think about mothering like an Appalachian, I think our parents did not go into debt in a way that created an insecurity for us. Our mothers were never threatened by us. They were
Right.
only made, I would say, more joyful at over our success.
Oh, absolutely.
Thirdly, the bedrock of everything was faith. My mom was very, very happy that I went and graduated from college and all of that. But more than anything, she was proud that God had kept me. That was
Yes.
her
Absolutely.
number one prayer. And it's my hope that Shuck Beans podcast will become an encouragement through through the practices of our heritage and what we learned, because I believe things were done well. I had a
Absolutely.
wonderful
Absolutely.
life growing up
I
in Harlan
love
County,
my raising.
Kentucky.
I wouldn't trade it for
Yes, I
anything.
loved it. I loved
Me
my
too.
parents. I loved the people who were around me. I loved the culture that we shared, and I believe that that conversations that have real life examples in them, that are the long view. That's the long view. We're not speculating on what could happen. We're sitting here
Right.
today, the result of what happened. And your
Absolutely.
daughters and your granddaughters and little
Yes.
Rook that's going to grow
Yes.
up there. We're not speculating. We are actually exemplifying, I guess is the word I would
Absolutely.
say. That
Absolutely.
we are examples of what it meant to be mothered in the manner that we were. And I hope that all that we've said today is certainly an encouragement to someone else. Thank you both so
Thank you.
much for
Thank you so
taking the time
much.
to do this.
Thank
And
you. I enjoyed it.
oh, yes, it's been wonderful. The only thing that could have made it better is if I were in Harlan or you all were here.
That would be
Absolutely.
amazing.
Yes.
Yes.
That would be amazing.
We need
Well,
to plan
thank you.
that.
And let me just ask those who are listening today, if you haven't found Shuck Beans on Facebook, please do find the Shuck Beans page and like or subscribe. Also, this podcast is on all podcast outlets. So wherever you're listening, please like or subscribe, because of course, you know how the algorithms work. And so that makes us more accessible to new people, and help share the positives of Appalachia, the ancestry, the heritage, and the culture that is shared by millions of people across several states. And your comments and your likes are certainly appreciated. There's also a Shuck Beans website where you can sign up for a monthly reminder, because Shuck Beans will be produced once a month in podcast and on YouTube. And thank you both again. And I love you both very, very much. And thank God
Love
for
you too.
our
Thank
faith.
you.